You are listening to Living with ADHD and CPTSD, available on Apple Podcasts and other podcast platforms. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Living with ADHD and CPTSD. Today is a CPTSD episode, and we are going to talk about sex and intimacy, how it is affected by complex trauma. And, to put it bluntly, it does affect me. I am not afraid or scared to admit it, but it definitely has affected me in that area of my relationship. So basically, because the traumatic events have the ability to shatter how we once saw the world, they become life-changing. What we experience may differ depending on the type of trauma, yet the end result is often the same. Fears, triggers, emotional dysregulation, feelings of worthlessness, emotional numbness, sleep-wake issues, avoidance behaviors, and hypervigilance. Any event that has the potential to cause trauma also has the potential to cause post-traumatic stress disorder, or CPTSD as well. If these events were repeated or chronic, such as ongoing abuse in childhood, captivity, war, human trafficking, or abuse in intimate relationships, they have the potential to cause what is known as complex CPTSD. So, many traumatized individuals are too hypervigilant to enjoy the ordinary pleasures that life offers, while others are too numb to absorb new experiences or to be alert to signs of real danger. When the smoke detectors of the brain malfunction, people no longer run when they should be trying to escape or fight back when they should be defending themselves. Safety is defined as a state of feeling secure, safe, and where risk, danger, or injury are reduced from occurring. Safety exists not only in the physical sense, but also includes feeling safe emotionally, mentally, and psychologically. Yet, when a person is battling the effects of CPTSD, feeling safe gets skewed. CPTSD often report feeling unsafe in their homes, around family, friends, or their significant other, and especially in public, including in familiar places. The reason that a sense of safety is compromised so significantly is that those with CPTSD have experienced severe and often repeated betrayal from their closest in their lives. This may stem from childhood abuse where a parent or caregiver chronically, physically, emotionally, or sexually abused them, or where their emotional or physical needs were consistently unmet. Additionally, it may happen in our adult lives from being betrayed by a friend or significant other through smear campaigns, cheating, discards, or other experiences that can exacerbate earlier trauma. When trust is shattered, the end result is to feel unsafe, threatened, and on guard. Intimate relationships are often the most damaged when someone is battling CPTSD because those who are closest to them are often the same people who trigger and fears. For example, a partner's concern can be interpreted as judging or shaming and may make a person with CPTSD feel emotionally triggered. They may feel confused or angered, which can trigger hypovigilance due to feeling unsafe. As a result, many will run, push away, shut down, or lash out. This in turn can trigger depression, self-doubt, and further shame, which adds to symptoms experienced by those with CPTSD. This pattern can become cyclic if left unchecked. Signs and symptoms of feeling unsafe in relationships. It's commonly known that those who have histories of severe or chronic trauma in childhood will often grow into adults who unconsciously seek out connections with others, especially intimate relationships, that allow them to reenact their unresolved childhood conflicts. Sigmund Freud, this psychiatrist, coined this as repetition compulsion, where an adult with unprocessed trauma will attempt to resolve the trauma through reliving the traumatic experiences in relationships. Anyone who has a history of dating their mother may often find this bill in Freudian terms. Fit this bill, excuse me. Other signs do include repeating the same relationship over and over. Those who have experienced severe trauma in their lives often gravitate to situations that not only trigger their unhealed core wounds, but that are often unsafe, yet get confused as comfortable. This is what can perpetuate a cycle of toxic intimate relationships based on repetition compulsion, unhealed core wounds, and confusing what's familiar as safe. Emotional avoidance. People who have CPTSD are often emotionally disconnected and engage in emotional avoidance as a coping strategy. Many may shut down, push those away who are closest to them, such as a partner, family, or friends, or try to superficially smooth things over instead of dealing with more vulnerable feelings. Partners may feel confused or angry as well as emotionally unheard. Unfortunately, because feeling unsafe is at the core of emotional avoidance, many with CPTSD may feel misunderstood by those in their lives, which can cause them to further isolate themselves. A lack of trust. Anyone who has experienced chronic, repeated, or severe trauma in childhood has often lost the ability to unconditionally trust those in their lives, including themselves. As children, their parents or caregivers who were supposed to protect and love them may have abandoned them, ignore their needs for their own, or physically or sexually abuse them. Needless to say, if a person has experienced a betrayal of trust in their formative years, they carry this with them into their adult relationships. As such, the closer a person is to someone with CPTSD, such as a romantic partner, the more of a threat to their safety that person becomes, often triggering their trust issues. Relationship avoidance. For some with CPTSD, relationships can be too overwhelming and a threat to their safety, which may include intimate partners or family. Because of their fears of feeling unsafe, not to be confused with fear of abandonment in BPD, those with CPTSD may choose to be alone, self-isolate to protect themselves, and to preserve their sense of autonomy, or may avoid intimate relationships altogether as too threatening. Symptoms of CPTSD can be difficult to manage and may trigger feelings of shame. It's important to educate family, friends, and significant others on how to navigate through avoidance, hypervigilance, and emotionally challenging behaviors. Those who have survived complex trauma don't need judgment. They don't need shaming. They need understanding, compassion, and time in rebuilding their lives and empowering themselves. Okay, so excuse me. Yeah, it's definitely because the whole fact that you feel this withdrawal and you tend to have a tendency to feel unsafe around people, especially those in your life that are going to be intimate, or a girlfriend or a boyfriend, you have a tendency to not trust them. And the partner who you're with may not really understand the things that are needed in order for it to work, or to be able to slowly and eventually move through the trauma and get to a point where that person does feel safe and are able to move into a situation where they can feel trustworthy of that person and get into an intimate or romantic situation. I didn't really have a problem at first, although with my very limited experience when it comes to intimate and romantic relationships and sex in general, I only had very limited and very skewed and sheltered knowledge about like romance and intimacy and sex. And when the reality came to play, that my experience and my knowledge when it came to intimate and romantic situations, I soon after that, lost all ability to, one, have any kind of self-confidence within myself, and feared repercussions and anger and upsetting my partner at any point when it would be the possibility of sex would occur. In the time frame, and I don't exactly remember, I think in the last 7 months, I have really only had sex 2 times. And all of it is because I just didn't have the confidence in me, and there was this ever-growing anxiety from a child part that was getting in the way of ever being able to enjoy it. And unfortunately, it really does make the ability to have any kind of intimate relations with someone next to impossible. And it doesn't really seem to want to get any better. There is a lot of therapy involved, but it also involves trust and feeling safe with that partner, which is something that I am working on, but it's a slow progress. And unfortunately, I need to work on it more in order to get to a stage where I do feel comfortable. And it's not easy, unfortunately. I really don't know exactly what to do. I have discussed it with my therapist and have tried to do some work, but it has really not gotten too far. And the whole idea of feeling safe and trusting my partner has been most of the battle at this point, and feeling good about myself and not having a child part or parts come online when the possibility of the act has come to play. And that is the hardest part that I always had to deal with lately. And the only thing that can make it better or improve is literally continual therapy and work to improve and feel safer around that person. And over time it will improve. And I'm certain that it will get to a point where I will feel safe again. Okay, I'm going to take a short break, and then when I come back, we will continue talking about this, okay? All right. Okay, everybody, welcome back to Living with ADHD and CPTSD. Today's episode we're talking about sex and intimacy when it comes to CPTSD. So I read to you some information there earlier, and that really explains most of what's going on. But the thing that it affects, that really, for like myself, now I'm going to be very specific here. Because of my issues with anxiety, when it comes to CPTSD and the parts feeling the anxiety, I have always had this problem with being intimate in general, like knowing what to do, hugging without feeling awkward, looking awkward, making the really strange movements that for a lot of people are going to be like, what the heck is going on? You're acting so strange. It doesn't look natural. It doesn't feel natural. And then it gets to be really like overdone. Like the intensity that I feel leading up to any sort of moment, whether it is sexual or intimate, like, cuddling in bed or kissing or holding hands, everything seems to always be very unusual and awkward for me. I think awkward is probably one of the best words that you could really use. And the amazing thing about it is the fact that with the awkwardness, it truly can cause problems within the relationship because of the fact that the person who is neurotypical is going to more often than not really feel like something just doesn't work, like there's no connection, there's no chemistry, right? And most people in a relationship, or when they're trying to get into a relationship, they're looking for chemistry, physical chemistry, mental chemistry, and even at some point sexual chemistry. Now, if they're dating someone who's kind of having some issues with CPTSD and it's interfering in their ability to be intimate and romantic and have any kind of sexual ability, it can really get in the way and end up causing someone to end the relationship prematurely because they don't really know how to handle it, and they oftentimes will just think that the person is weird. And unfortunately, it is quite a common occurrence out there, and the only way you can really deal with it is by, working through it, talking to your partner, being honest about it, and, telling them about these things. Don't hide it. Don't pretend. If you pretend that it's not an issue, or you're unwilling to talk about it, it will definitely get in the way. Like it will, you have a better chance of ruining the relationship than working on it and healing and getting closer with that person. I know from personal experience that is what's going on in my time. I'm working hard to overcome the fear and work with the parts that are the ones that are affected when it comes to intimacy and sex. It's definitely not an easy thing to do, of course, because of the fact that you're always going to have moments where you could feel intimidated, you could feel overwhelmed, you could feel like your ability to like yourself and have self-confidence within yourself can be a big factor in that too. Because if you're sitting there and you already have this anxiety from your trauma and you're trying to, let's just say, initiate an intimate moment with your partner, any slight change or unexpected problem that might come up, like, if you're really trying hard to make everything work right, and the smallest little thing that comes up that is awkward or strange feeling or suddenly gets you going, okay, this isn't right, something's wrong, you end up hurting your self-esteem, and recovery is very hard on yourself. So then it's going to make it even more difficult the next time that it's a possibility to even get further than what you were able to get the first time. And if this happens multiple times, especially if you guys live together, like my girlfriend and I do live together, and it does make things very uncomfortable, and it can really lead to a lot of anxious moments and a lot of embarrassment. And I have, rushed into some things when it came to sex or initiating the idea of it, and would ruin the moment, and the feeling would be gone, and nothing would occur, and I'd feel upset because I'm thinking, oh, I did it again. I'm triggered. I'm not able to maintain the adult. I'm not able to be confident in myself. And then she's getting upset and she's feeling hurt because she's wondering what the hell is wrong with me, right? And it's a very common thing that is occurring, and it seemed to happen very often with each, our relationship. And it eventually got to the point where, to be honest, I haven't really thought about it too often. We have moments where we kiss and we hug, but in any possibility, like whenever the idea of something further coming up gets into play, then it seems like I get overwhelmed and I have a part come online and get activated. And then it's no longer the adult thinking, in an adult way. And as she would put it, imagine, if you can, the adult wanting to have sexual relations with someone and that person is acting like a child. It's like, and it's disgusting to think about it or to imagine it, but it's like an adult partner not wanting to obviously have a sex with a child, of course, and that's what it mentally feels like when that child part is coming online and is triggered and is doing weird things and saying things that are childlike, and the behaviors are childlike instead of the adult. It's a complete turnoff. And of course, someone who experiences that on a regular basis, and if they have a very poor understanding of what is going on with the trauma and the anxiety that's getting in the way, there is a good chance that they're just going to give up and run away from any further relationship because they don't want to deal with it. They don't want to be part of it. They want a person who's going to be an adult in regards to this, to having any sort of, intimate moments. And it's difficult to do that when your partner is getting triggered all the time. And especially if they're having child moments where the child is taking over and they're blended with that part. It's really difficult. And it will eventually get to the point of the relationship ending, unfortunately, which is really bad. And it's not going to help the person who already has the CPTSD because it's going to further damage their system, and they're going to fall further behind instead of getting any healing or, having the chance to heal with that person. And the last thing that most people really want is to be rejected and abandoned because of their problem, right? Like you just don't want to deal with that again. And if you're repeatedly being let go or a relationship ending because of your inability to have any sort of intimate or sexual chemistry and having intimate moments, failure repeatedly over and over, it's just going to do nothing but damage your system and put you further into a triggered state and fall behind. It's really, honestly, difficult. Now, some of the things that you can do if your partner has CPTSD and you're in an intimate relationship. Here's the things for someone who doesn't have CPTSD. Try your best not to take things personally. Yeah, it is easier said than done, but it can go a long way in soothing both you and your partner who has the CPTSD. Learn more about CPTSD. Self-education is key. Learn about your partner's specific needs and triggers. Practice self-care. You need to safeguard your mental and physical well-being. Maintain regular sleep patterns, make healthy eating choices, engage in daily activity and exercise, and develop some relaxation techniques. Be consistent. Someone with CPTSD responds well to predictable patterns and habits. Respect boundaries, but also be sure to set and enforce your own boundaries. Make this an ongoing conversation between you. Talk about consent in terms of intimacy. Get things out into the open in terms of your intimacy and your sex life. Encourage them to seek professional help. Simply put, your partner needs professional treatment, not judgment or unreliable support. So, if you're the person who has CPTSD and you're having struggles and you think your relationship may be on the rocks due to inability to have intimate relations or intimacy in any way, I definitely would recommend showing or telling them about this. There is a lot of online information that they can research to help. There are definitely a lot of videos on YouTube that you can definitely look up, which are really, really good and can be very helpful. Individual or couples therapy can be invaluable. Important regarding complex PTSD and romantic relationships, both people need support and guidance. The partner with CPTSD needs to work with a qualified mental health practitioner to move towards recovery. Trauma treatment is a specialized field of psychology, so it's best to work with someone who provides you trauma-informed treatment. But as a team, you can both commit to couples counseling. If you are in a relationship with a trauma survivor, be sure to get the support you need. While your partner heals, the two of you can make much needed progress in your romantic life. These parallel tracks validate both of your needs and cover a lot more ground. To learn more about this process, why not reach out? You can definitely consider therapy and then get moving in a healthier, more productive direction. I definitely recommend that. Would be extremely helpful for everybody, especially for the person who has CPTSD. It is something that may never fully, go away, but if there's a better understanding between the two people who have this, then or that are dealing with it, then you have a much better chance of your relationship surviving. And you have better odds of getting through that tough time before the healing can really start. And that is a huge, huge thing, especially for someone who's got CPTSD, but also for that person who doesn't. Because when you're trying to gain trust and feel safe with that person in intimate situations, being patient and being understanding and being helpful is an extremely good way of getting there faster and gaining that partner's trust on both sides, to be honest. It is difficult, but you can definitely take care of each other. And maybe, to be honest, maybe you would need to put aside for a little while the idea of sex, because if you try to force it, first off, someone's going to get hurt, whether it's the person with CPTSD or the person who doesn't have it. Someone is bound to get hurt if you just try to force it and you don't work through this before you continue. There are definitely other ways of being intimate, as I'm sure you all know, like holding each other, cuddling on a couch or in bed, kissing, hugging, holding hands, doing things together like cooking or going for a walk or doing something fun. Watching a movie on the couch together while holding each other is a lot of fun and is a good way to feel close. Even, one thing that can work if you do feel comfortable with it is you can have sessions where you just touch each other in not necessarily in a sexual manner either. You can just touch each other, and you could take your clothes off, or you can do it with your clothes on. And it helps build that sense of trust with the person like both people, to be honest. And it really is helpful and is a good way to start. And eventually you can move over time towards going further into more things like foreplay. And at some point, once that person is starting to heal and feels a lot more safe and confident with themselves, then they can start looking at actually the act of sex, which, takes a lot of effort and a lot of patience and a lot of trust with each other in order for that to occur. I know personally it's difficult to even think about it without the idea of the anxiety in my system from my part coming on. It's been a lot better lately, and it's not something that I can easily just get by or get past. I do have to do my own work and heal. my own part and build my self-confidence up again in order to get to that stage where I feel confident enough and safe enough to go into that sort of, into the next stage. I have to say I was late to the game when it comes to intimacy. I've never been good with understanding and knowing how to be with a woman, and even in a non-sexual manner. It's never been easy for me. I didn't exactly grow up in a family that was very open-minded about sex or willing to talk about it. And my discovery of sex was at a very young age. And I had a very skewed point of view when it came to it. And alongside with all the trauma that I've been dealing with in my life, the ability to be intimate with a partner, even in kissing or hugging or holding each other, has always, well, not so much today, but still to a degree has always been difficult. And it is something that I've always been working on. And the idea of feeling that it is normal and something that should be, to, like, for me, an everyday or common experience is not so common for me. It is something that I've been working on for many, many years, and I truly believe that I still have quite a ways to go. I would love to get there faster, but I can only go as fast and as far as my parts are willing to allow me, and I got to gain their trust more in order for that to get there. It is a difficult process, and therapy definitely is helping, and learning to be confident in my own abilities and with myself and feel happy and like myself physically is a good way of starting. And it takes time, and it takes, a lot of work to get there. For everybody else out there, I definitely recommend not rushing. Don't do something if you don't feel comfortable. And hopefully the partner you're with respects your boundaries and respects your wishes and is understanding. But at the same time, be honest with your partner. Don't hold things inside and don't hide. If you're in a situation that there's potential intimate moments, don't be afraid to talk to them. They're your partner. They're going to listen to you and understand you and feel and show compassion towards you. If that partner isn't willing to do that, then you're not with the right person to begin with, and you shouldn't even be in that situation then. That's just my 2 bits when it comes to this. Okay, everybody, that's today's episode. I hope you enjoyed this. Check me out on Twitter. It is at ADHD and CPTSD. The website is www.livingwithadhdandcptsd.ca. And check me out. I do have a YouTube channel that I'm going to be putting up right away with YouTube versions of my show. And hopefully I hear from you guys. Give me a shout. I'd love to talk. Okay, that's it. Next week there'll be a new episode and we'll continue going. All right, everybody. Have a fantastic weekend. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.